Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button.
All right. So there's a report that just dropped that honestly has me rethinking everything about how the Blue Jays pitching staff could look by midseason. And I'm not even exaggerating here. This involves Max Scherzer, some strategic roster decisions, and a couple of under-the-radar signings that might actually matter more than people realize. So stick around because this could get really interesting as the season unfolds. Ken Rosenthal just came out with some information about Max Scherzer's current situation and his plans moving forward. Apparently, Scherzer had a phone call last week where he made it pretty clear that he's healthy. He's ready to sign with the team right now if the right situation presents itself. But if that doesn't happen, he's completely fine waiting until after opening day to join one of his preferred clubs. And this isn't some random strategy, it's pulling out of nowhere. Roger Clemens did the exact same thing back in 2007, waiting to see which contending teams would deal with injuries, which organizations would get desperate for starting pitching, and then making his move when he had all the leverage. It's actually pretty smart when you think about it from a player's perspective. Now here's where it gets interesting for Toronto specifically. After the Blue Jays lost in the World Series, Scherzer went on record saying there's unfinished business in Toronto and that he'd want to come back to try and win a championship with this group. That's not some vague statement you can interpret however you want. That's a pretty direct indication of where his head's at regarding the Blue Jays organization. So naturally everyone started asking whether Toronto would actually consider bringing him back for another run. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more scenarios I can see where this actually makes sense despite how crowded a rotation looks right now. Look, the Jays are absolutely stacked with starting pitching on paper. I'm not disputing that at all. But here's the reality of baseball: injuries happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how severe. If Toronto goes down with a significant injury early in the season or midway through, Scherzer is objectively better than most of the minor league options they currently have, especially if they don't want to rush prospects who might not be ready for that kind of pressure. You've got Trey Yates, who was phenomenal in the postseason, but how many innings are they realistically going to give him during the regular season? There's also the very real possibility they trade someone like Jose Berrios to shake things up or address another need, and suddenly you've got a rotation spot that needs filling. Maybe Scherzer slides into a long relief role where his veteran presence becomes invaluable. I'm not saying it's a perfect fit right now, because it's not, but it's also not completely outside the realm of possibility either. The thing that keeps coming back to me is that Scherzer literally started Game 7 for the Blue Jays last season. He was there for the biggest game of the year, the most pressure-packed situation you can imagine. So there's already an established relationship. There's already trust built between him and this organization. And based on what he said publicly after their World Series exit, Toronto is absolutely on his radar as one of his preferred landing spots. That matters a lot when you're talking about a veteran who has his pick of destinations. Now, his numbers last year weren't great. I'll be the first to admit that. A 5.19 ERA is concerning for anyone, let alone a 42-year-old pitcher. But I'm not saying the Jays should actively pursue him as their top priority right now. What I am saying is that if you get to June or July and Shane Bieber is still working his way back from Tommy John, or if injuries start piling up, having Scherzer's number saved starts to look pretty smart. Let's talk about the current rotation because there are genuinely some question marks despite all the depth. Kevin Gausman should be solid. You can count on that. Yusei Kikuchi should be good based on what we saw down the stretch. Shane Bieber is a big unknown because nobody really knows his opening day status given the Tommy John rehab timeline. Jose Berrios could be on the move if the right trade comes along. So yeah, there are definitely scenarios where bringing in Scherzer, even at his age, makes sense as insurance or midseason reinforcement. And speaking of familiar faces, Chris Bassitt's name has been circulating as well. There's been some discussion about whether the Jays should bring Bassitt back as a key bullpen arm. We all saw how crucial he was during the entire playoff run. The reason I don't hate this idea is because Bassitt is a legitimate innings eater. He's not some guy who can only give you 3 or 4 innings. He can go out there every 5th day and give you quality starts. The fact that he hasn't been signed yet makes things more intriguing because his price is probably lower than it would have been earlier in the offseason. Neither Scherzer nor Bassitt is a clean fit on paper given the current roster, but here's the thing, you can never have too much pitching. Having these veteran arms makes some of your other pieces expendable, which gives you flexibility in trades or roster moves. if you've got Scherzer or Bassitt ready to step in. Suddenly trading Jose Berrios becomes way more realistic because you're not creating a hole in your rotation. There's also been some minor league activity that flew under the radar. The Jays signed Connor Seabold to a minor league deal. His numbers aren't impressive, 7.79 ERA this past season, but his organizational depth. The signing that actually caught my attention is catcher CJ Stubbs on a minor league contract. Stubbs was a 10th round pick in 2019, got cut by Houston last year, and has bounced around without much opportunity. He's 29, played 45 games in AAA with a decent slash line, and has shown some speed which is unusual for a catcher. Here's why this matters. The Blue Jays don't have tons of catching depth behind Alejandro Kirk and Tyler Heineman. Stubbs now projects as a first call-up if either goes down with an injury. Tyler Heineman bounced between teams before landing in Toronto and ended up being crucial to winning the division. So whenever the Jays sign a catcher, I pay attention because they've shown they can find value at that position. Stubbs isn't going to be an all-star, but he gives them a veteran option who can handle big league pitching if needed. So the Max Scherzer situation is definitely something to monitor as we get deeper into the season. The Chris Bassitt possibility is real if they want another veteran. And these minor league signings show the front office is still building depth even after the big moves are done. Let me know what you think about all this.